The thing to do is find out how big Princess Lenore thinks the moon is and how far away. I never thought of that, said the king. I will go to her, your majesty, said the court jester, and he crept softly into the little girl's room. Princess Lenore was awake, and she was glad to see the court jester, but her face was very pale and her voice very weak. Have you brought the moon to me, she asked. No, not yet, said the court jester, but I will get it for you right away. How big is it? It's a little smaller than my thumbnail, she said, for when I hold my thumbnail up at the moon, it covers it. And how far away is it, said the court jester. It's not as high as the big tree outside my window, said the princess, for sometimes it gets caught in the top branches. It will be very easy to get the moon for you, said the court jester. I will climb to the tree tonight, and when it gets caught in the top branches, I will get it and bring it to you. Then he thought of something else. What's it made of, princess, he asked. Oh, she said, it's made of gold, silly. Everyone knows that. The royal court jester left Princess Lenore's room and went to the royal goldsmith. He had the royal goldsmith make a tiny round coin, just a little smaller than the thumbnail of Princess Lenore. Then he had him string it on a golden chain so the princess could wear it around her neck. What is this thing I have made? Asked the royal goldsmith when he was finished with it. You have made the moon, said the court jester. That is the moon. But the moon, said the royal goldsmith, is 500,000 miles away, and it's made of bronze, and it's round like a marble. That's what you think, said the court jester, as he went away with the moon. The court jester took the moon to Princess Lenore, and she was overjoyed. The next day she was well again and could go out in the garden to play. But the king's worries were not yet over. He knew that the moon would shine in the sky again that night, and he did not want Princess Lenore to see it. If she did, she would know that the moon she wore on a chain around her neck was not the real moon. So the king sent for the Lord High Chamberlain and said, we must keep Princess Lenore from seeing the moon when it shines in the sky tonight. Think of something. The Lord High Chamberlain tapped his forehead with his fingers thoughtfully and said, I know just the thing. We can make some dark glasses for the princess. We can make them so dark that she will not be able to see the moon when it shines in the sky. This made the king angry, and he shook his head from side to side. If she wore dark glasses, she would bump into things, he said, and then she would be ill again. So he sent the Lord High Chamberlain away and called in the royal wizard. We must hide the moon, said the king, so Princess Lenore will not see it when it shines in the sky tonight. How are we going to do it? The royal wizard stood on his hands and then stood on his head, and then he stood on his feet again. I know what we can do, he said. We can stretch some black velvet curtains on poles. The curtains will cover all the palace gardens like a circus tent. When the Princess Lenore will not be able to see through them, she will not be able to see the moon in the sky. The king was so angry at this that he waved his arms around. Black velvet curtains would keep out the air, he said. Princess Lenore would not be able to breathe, and she would be ill again. So he sent away the royal wizard and summoned the royal mathematician. We must do something, said the king, so Princess Lenore will not see the moon when it shines in the sky tonight. If you know so much, figure out a way to do that. The royal mathematician walked around in a circle, and then he walked around in a square, and then he stood still. I have it, he said. We can set off fireworks in the gardens every night. We will have a lot of silver fountains and gold cascades, and when they go off, they will fill the sky with so many sparks that it will be just as light as day, and Princess Lenore will not be able to see the moon. The king flew into a rage again and began jumping up and down. Fireworks would keep the Princess Lenore awake, he said. She would not get any sleep at all, and she would be ill again. So the king sent the royal mathematician away. When he looked up again, it was dark outside, and he saw the bright rim of the moon just peeping over the horizon. He jumped up in a great fright and ran for the court jester. The court jester came bounding into the room and sat down at the foot of the throne. What can I do for you, your majesty? Nobody can do anything for me, said the king mournfully. The moon is coming up again. It will shine into Princess Lenore's bedroom. She will know it is still in the sky, and that she does not wear it on a golden chain around her neck. Play me something on your lute, something very sad, for when the princess sees the moon, she will be ill again. The court jester strummed his lute. What did your wise men say? They can think of no way to hide the moon that will not make the princess ill, said the king. The court jester played another song, very soft. Your wise men know everything, he said, and if they cannot hide the moon, then it cannot be hidden. The king put his head in his hands and sighed. Suddenly he jumped from his throne and pointed to the window. Look, he cried, the moon is already shining in Princess Lenore's bedroom. Who can explain how the moon can be shining when it's hanging on a golden chain around her neck? The court jester stopped playing his lute. Who could explain how to get the moon when your wise men said it was too large and too far away? It was the Princess Lenore. Therefore, the Princess Lenore is wiser than your wise men and knows more about the moon than they do. So I will ask her. And before the king could stop him, the court jester slipped quietly out of the throne room, up the wide marble staircase into Princess Lenore's bedroom. The princess was lying in her bed, but she was wide awake, and she was looking out the window at the moon shining in the sky. Shining in her hand was the moon the court jester had got for her. He looked very sad, and there seemed to be a tear in his eyes. Tell me, princess, he said mournfully, how can the moon be shining in the sky when it's hanging on a golden chain around your neck? The princess looked back at him and laughed. That's easy, silly, she said. When I lose a tooth, a new one grows in its place, doesn't it? Of course, said the court jester. And when the unicorn loses his horn in the forest, a new one grows in the middle of his forehead. That's right, said the princess. And when the royal gardener cuts the flowers in the garden, other flowers come back to take their place. I should have thought of that, said the court jester. For it's the same way with the daylight. And it's the same way with the moon, Princess Lenore said. I guess it's the same way with everything. Her voice became very low and faded, and the court jester saw that she was asleep. Gently he tucked the covers around the sleeping princess. But before he left her room, he went over to the window and winked at the moon, for it seemed to the court jester that the moon had winked at him.